This photograph cannot be real. That is the immediate response. The colors are too saturated, the formations too geometrically impossible, the scenes too alien to exist on the same planet where you ate breakfast this morning. But they are real, every single one. No digital manipulation, no artistic license, just Earth-revealing capabilities that most people never witness because they visit the wrong 10% of the planet. The world you think you know contains landscapes where geology, chemistry, biology, and time collaborated across millions of years to create scenes that belong in concept art for science fiction films. 15 locations where your brain will reject the evidence your eyes deliver, and the disturbing realization that photographs actually undersell what visiting feels like. This is not about beauty. This is about impossibility made manifest. Stay through all 15. The final destination produces a phenomenon that science still cannot fully explain despite decades of research. What happens when Earth stops following the rules? Your understanding of what the planet can produce is about to require complete revision. Number 1. Fly Geyser, Nevada. Fly Geyser erupts continuously from the Black Rock Desert in Nevada, like a monument designed by an artist who rejected realism entirely. But here is what makes it stranger. It is not natural, and that somehow makes it more impossible. In 1916, a ranch drilled a well-seeking irrigation water. They accidentally tapped into a geothermal reservoir. They capped it and moved on. In 1964, a second drilling operation pierced the same system. This time, the cap failed. For 60 years, mineral-laden water has erupted continuously. The dissolved minerals deposit around the vent, building the cone taller and wider every single year. Thermophilic algae that thrive in extreme heat colonize the mineral deposits. These microorganisms produce the colors: vivid reds, electric greens, burnt oranges, deep purples. The colors shift with seasons as different algae species dominate depending on water temperature and sunlight. The result looks like a deliberate sculpture. Terraced pools cascade down the cone, steam vents continuously. The colors are so saturated they appear painted. But this is pure chemistry and biology operating without any human design beyond the accidental well puncture that started the process. Fly Geyser sits on private land purchased by Burning Man in 2016. Limited public access became available through scheduled tours. But the alien quality remains. This should not exist. An accident created something more visually striking than any intentional design could achieve. Number 2. Antelope Canyon, Arizona. From accidental creation, we move to intentional erosion operating across millions of years. Antelope Canyon in Arizona was carved by flash floods cutting through Navajo sandstone. But calling it a canyon misrepresents what you experience inside. This is a slot, sometimes only shoulder width. The walls curve in organic flows that seem sculpted by conscious hands. Light penetrates from openings above and bounces between curved walls, creating illumination effects that change throughout the day as sun angles shift. The colors defy digital reproduction. Orange that glows as if lit from within. Reds that seem to pulse. Purples in the deepest shadows. The sandstone itself becomes luminous when light reflects at certain angles. Photographers describe the colors as impossible to capture accurately. Cameras compress the dynamic range. The human eye sees things in Antelope Canyon that sensors cannot record. The light beams that fall through upper openings during midday hours create shaft effects that visitors consistently describe in spiritual terms. The Navajo name translates to the place where water runs through rocks. But that functional description conveys nothing of the sensory assault the space delivers. Visiting requires Navajo guides. Flash floods remain genuine danger. The confined space offers zero escape if water arrives. But those who experience Antelope Canyon describe the three-dimensional reality as exceeding every photograph they saw before visiting. This is rare. Usually, photographs oversell. Here, photographs undersell. Number 3, Plitvice Lakes, Croatia. We travel now to water whose color appears chemically impossible. Plitvice Lakes in Croatia contain water so intensely blue-green that first-time visitors often stop walking and stare in silence, waiting for their vision to adjust to information their brain insists cannot be accurate. The color comes from calcium carbonate dissolved from limestone that the lakes have carved over millennia. But understanding the chemistry does nothing to reduce the visual shock. 16 lakes connect through waterfalls and cascades. Wooden walkways allow traversal above and around the water. Fish are visible in water that appears only inches deep but actually extends several meters. The clarity is absolute. The color is beyond saturated. And the entire system exists because of ongoing geological processes that continue adding travertine barriers and reshaping lake configurations. The reflection of surrounding forest in the impossible blue creates doubling effects. Trees appear both above and below the water with equal clarity. The visual effect resembles those optical illusions where figure and ground reverse. Your brain cannot decide what is reflection and what is reality. UNESCO designated Plitvice a World Heritage Site in 1979. Visitor caps protect the delicate travertine formations that create the lakes. But for those who see it, the memory persists. Water should not be that color. Physics and chemistry say it should not be possible, but here it is. Reality, ignoring what you thought were rules. Number 4, Salar de Uyuni, Bolivia. The next destination creates an effect so extreme it removes the ground from beneath your feet. Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia is the world's largest salt flat. 10,582 square kilometers of salt crust, with elevation variation measuring less than 1 meter across the entire expanse. During dry season, the flat displays hexagonal salt patterns extending to every horizon. The white surface is so reflective that sunglasses become mandatory. NASA uses Salar de Uyuni to calibrate satellite instruments because the reflectivity and flatness create a perfect natural calibration target. But during rainy season, transformation occurs. A thin layer of water covers the surface. The salt remains below. And because the flat is so perfectly level, this water layer becomes the world's largest natural mirror. The sky reflects perfectly. Clouds appear below your feet with the same clarity they appear above your head. The horizon line vanishes completely. You seem to float in infinite blue void. No visual reference for ground, no way to distinguish sky from reflection. Your depth perception fails completely. Walking on Salar de Uyuni during this state produces vertigo. Your brain cannot orient itself. Without horizon, without ground reference, you lose the spatial anchoring that normally operates unconsciously. Some people report feeling nauseated. The visual information your eyes deliver contradicts everything your inner ear reports about which direction is down. Both versions of Salar de Uyuni look unreal for different reasons. One removes texture and creates geometric impossibility. The other removes ground and creates spatial impossibility. Either way, your brain cannot classify what your eyes report. Number 5, Zhangjiajie, China. From the impossible flat, we move to the impossible vertical. Zhangjiajie's sandstone pillars in China inspired the floating mountains in Avatar. but standing among the actual formations delivers something film cannot capture. Over 3,000 pillars rise from subtropical forest. Some exceed 200 meters in height, the equivalent of a 70-story building made of solid stone balanced on a base narrower than the structure it supports. This should not be structurally possible. The physics of load-bearing and center of gravity suggest these pillars should topple, but they have stood for millions of years. Erosion carved them from massive sandstone deposits. The specific mineral composition and layering create strength that defies the apparent fragility. And mist that frequently pools at their bases creates the floating effect that inspired Cameron's fictional world. Sound behaves strangely between the pillars. Echoes bounce in unexpected patterns. Distance becomes difficult to judge. A pillar that appears near might be several hundred meters away. Your depth perception fails because you have no comparison scale for stone columns this tall and narrow. The glass bridge spanning between pillars adds another impossibility. You look straight down through transparent panels at empty space falling away for hundreds of meters. Your conscious mind knows the engineering is sound. Your unconscious mind screams that you are about to fall. The disconnect creates physiological stress. Heart rate increases. Breathing accelerates. All because your vision reports information your instincts reject. Halfway through this catalog of planetary impossibilities, and the pattern clarifies. Earth contains more landscapes that violate expectations than any human lifetime could explore. The destinations ahead include biological light shows, lakes that burn, ice that glows blue, and rock formations that seem designed by committees that never consulted geology textbooks. The question is no longer whether these places are real. The question is why evolution, geology, and chemistry collaborated to create things that look designed but emerged entirely through natural processes operating without intention. Number 6. Grand Prismatic. Spring, Yellowstone. The Grand Prismatic Spring in Yellowstone National Park is the largest hot spring in the United States, but size is secondary to the color. From ground level, you see steam and partial colors. From the overlook, accessible via moderate hiking trail, the full impossible geometry reveals itself. Concentric rings of color radiate from the center. Deep blue at the hottest point where water exceeds 70 degrees Celsius. Then graduating through turquoise, green, yellow, orange, and red as temperature decreases toward the edges where the water is cool enough for different bacterial species to survive. The colors come from thermophilic bacteria. Different species thrive at different temperatures. Each species produces different pigments. The result is a rainbow arranged in perfect rings, organized not by conscious design, but by the temperature gradient radiating from the central vent. The spring measures approximately 112 meters in diameter. The colors are so vivid they appear artificial. Steam rises continuously, and the whole structure sits in a landscape that includes geysers, fumaroles, and mud pots that demonstrate Yellowstone sits atop a supervolcano that will eventually erupt with civilization-ending force. This is a natural laboratory for extremophile biology, and a visual experience that cameras consistently fail to capture accurately. The scale, the saturation, the steam adding depth and motion to what could be static. Visiting requires accepting that you cannot photograph it adequately. You can only witness it. Number 7. Waitomo Glowworm Caves, New Zealand. From geothermal rainbow to biological constellations that glow in darkness, the Waitomo Glowworm Caves in New Zealand contain larvae of Arachnocampa luminosa, a fungus gnat species found only in New Zealand. These larvae produce bioluminescent silk threads that hang from cave ceilings, glowing blue-green to attract flying insects that become prey. Thousands of larvae create the effect. Boats glide silently through the cave in complete darkness. Your eyes adjust over several minutes. Then the ceiling reveals itself, thousands of blue-green points of light arranged in natural patterns that resemble star fields. The lights reflect in still water below, doubling the effect. The experience resembles floating through space. The darkness is absolute except for the bioluminescence. Sound dampens completely in the cave environment, and the gentle motion of the boat creates dreamlike sensation that makes reality feel uncertain. This is not extreme destination requiring expedition skills. Standard tourist boats operate daily, but the visual and sensory impact is extreme. A biological light show evolved over millions of years, available for viewing in quiet darkness that amplifies rather than diminishes the effect. Number 8. Diamond Beach, Iceland. Iceland produces multiple impossible landscapes, but Diamond Beach, near Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon, achieves something particularly striking. Icebergs calve from Breiðamerkurjökull Glacier into the lagoon. They drift to the ocean. Waves wash them back onto black volcanic sand beaches. The combination of blue-white ice against jet-black sand looks staged for photography. It appears too perfect to be natural arrangement. The icebergs range from hand-sized to larger than vehicles. The ice is dense, compressed over centuries or millennia into crystal clarity. Blue glacier ice results from air being squeezed out under pressure. The blue color comes from ice absorbing red wavelengths and reflecting blue, but only in ice dense enough and thick enough that the effect becomes visible. At sunrise or sunset, the ice catches light and glows. The black sand provides maximum contrast. Waves constantly reposition the ice, creating new compositions continuously. No two visits produce the same arrangements. The ice is temporary. Some pieces melt within hours on the warm black sand that absorbs solar heat. What you photograph today will not exist tomorrow. The beach is constantly resupplied by glaciers that are themselves shrinking due to climate change. This landscape may not exist in its current form within decades. Number 9. Kawah Ijen, Indonesia. Kawah Ijen volcano in Indonesia produces two separate impossibilities in the same location. By day, the crater lake displays turquoise water that appears tropical and inviting, until you learn it is one of the largest highly acidic lakes on Earth with pH approaching 0. The color results from sulfuric acid concentration and dissolved metals. Swimming in this lake would be fatal within seconds. By night, the volcano produces blue fire. Sulfuric gases escape from fumaroles and ignite when meeting atmospheric oxygen. The flames reach temperatures exceeding 600 degrees Celsius and can extend 5 meters in height. The blue color results from combustion of elemental sulfur. This is not lava. The mountain itself is not blue, but the burning gases create blue flames visible only in darkness, dancing across the crater in patterns that seem choreographed, but result purely from gas pressure and wind patterns. Viewing requires challenging pre-dawn hike down into the active crater. The air contains dangerous concentrations of sulfur dioxide. Gas masks are essential. The miners who extract solid sulfur from these vents work in conditions that would violate every occupational safety regulation in developed countries. But for those who make the descent, the combination of acid lake and blue fire delivers an experience chemistry textbooks describe but no photograph adequately conveys. Number 10. Socotra Island, Yemen. Socotra Island, off Yemen, separated from the African continent approximately 6 million years ago. Evolution proceeded along different paths here, isolated from continental competition. The dragon blood tree defines Socotra's alien quality. The umbrella-shaped crown and thick trunk appear designed by someone who never studied actual trees. When cut, the tree produces red resin that ancient traders sold as dragon's blood for dye, medicine, and various mystical purposes. But dragon blood trees are one species among over 700 found only on Socotra. Bottle trees with massively swollen trunks store water for dry seasons. Desert roses bloom pink against limestone. The entire island resembles a botanical garden planted by someone who rejected normal evolutionary outcomes. The beaches remain undeveloped. The interior highlands support forests that belong on other planets, and the difficulty of access, limited flights, complex logistics, regional instability, preserves what tourism typically erases elsewhere. This is not a single impossible feature. This is an entire ecosystem of impossible features accumulated over millions of years of isolation from continental evolutionary pressures. Number 11. Pamukkale, Turkey. The final destinations confirm the central revelation of this journey. Pamukkale's white travertine terraces in Turkey cascade down hillsides filled with thermal water that deposits calcium carbonate in formations that look carved. The terraces are brilliant white. The pools filled with blue-green thermal water create contrast that seems artificial. The formations look like frozen waterfalls or wedding cake tiers stacked hundreds of meters high. For centuries, people bathed in these pools. The water contains minerals believed to have therapeutic properties. The Romans built the ancient city of Hierapolis adjacent to use the springs. Today, access is restricted to protect the formations, but limited areas remain open for visitors to wade in the thermal pools. The white terraces against blue sky create scenes that challenge photography. The brightness is extreme. The contrast is beyond what most cameras handle well, and the scale is larger than most expect. These terraces extend for over 2,700 meters along the mountainside. Number 12. Marble Caves, Chile. The Marble Caves sit on General Carrera Lake in Chilean Patagonia, carved by 6,000 years of wave action against calcium carbonate rock. The caves display swirling patterns in blue and white that resemble marble, but formed through natural erosion. The water itself is turquoise from glacial flour, fine particles of rock ground by glaciers upstream. This color reflects onto the cave walls, creating blue glow that intensifies or softens depending on time of day and season. Visiting requires boat access. You glide through narrow passages where cave walls close in on both sides. The ceiling drips with formations. Your reflection appears in water so clear it seems absent, and the blue glow makes the entire experience otherworldly. Number 13. Zhangye Danxia, China. The Rainbow Mountains of Zhangye Danxia in China display layered sediments in reds, yellows, oranges, and greens created by millions of years of mineral deposition. Different minerals produce different colors. Iron creates reds. Sulfur produces yellows. The layers compress over millennia, then erosion exposes them at angles that display the striping clearly. The result looks painted, deliberately designed, but this is pure geology operating across timescales humans cannot easily comprehend. The mountains appear striped like candy. The colors are vivid even on overcast days. In strong sunlight, they become almost psychedelic. This is not subtle earth tones. This is geology as abstract art. Number 14. Giant's Causeway, Northern Ireland. The Giant's Causeway consists of approximately 40,000 interlocking basalt columns formed by volcanic eruption and rapid cooling. The columns are hexagonal. They fit together so precisely they appear manufactured. Heights vary from a few centimeters to several meters. The entire formation extends from cliff down into the sea. Legend says the giant Finn McCool built this causeway to reach Scotland. Science says volcanic lava cooled rapidly, contracting and fracturing into hexagonal patterns through predictable physical processes. Either explanation struggles to make the geometric perfection seem natural. Walking on these columns feels like traversing manufactured tiles. The precision is unsettling. Nature does not usually produce straight lines and perfect angles, but here it did. And the result challenges assumptions about what natural formations can achieve. Number 15. Lençóis Maranhenses, Brazil. The final destination delivers the thesis of this entire journey. Lençóis Maranhenses, National Park in northeastern Brazil, looks like desert. White sand dunes extend over 1,500 square kilometers. But this is not true desert. The region receives over 1,600 millimeters of rainfall annually. During rainy season, the valleys between dunes fill with fresh water, creating thousands of lagoons scattered across white sand. You walk across dunes and encounter turquoise lagoon the size of a football field. The water is warm. Fish live in these pools, arriving as eggs carried by birds. The pools exist for about 6 months before evaporating. The contrast between white sand and blue water appears photoshopped. Swimming in pools surrounded by desert breaks every classification system your brain uses. This should not exist. Deserts do not have lakes. Lakes do not appear in dunes. But here, both exist simultaneously. 15 places, 0 digital enhancement, just chemistry, geology, biology, and time collaborating without intention to produce results that seem designed. Earth creates impossible beauty not through planning, but through process. Millions of years, specific conditions, chemical reactions, evolutionary pressure, physical laws operating at scales beyond human experience. The planet we inhabit contains more impossible beauty than most travelers witness. Not because these places are hidden, because most travelers visit familiar destinations and miss the impossible ones entirely. These places exist now. Climate change alters many. Glaciers retreat. Ecosystems shift. The diamond beach may not exist as the glaciers shrink. The Lençóis Maranhenses patterns may change as rainfall patterns shift. The impossible places of today are not guaranteed tomorrow. What millions of years created, decades of climate change can alter beyond recognition. The video on screen reveals how to visit 5 of these impossible destinations affordably. Logistics, timing, and costs for experiences most travelers assume are beyond reach. Watch it next to start planning the impossible.